interested in, I'm one of them. So for me, as I stated earlier, I don't have any hard no individual, yes, but I don't have any hard nose on either of them with today's discussion. So I'm on board with all of them. I will just say on 4.002 though, the idea of living in a district, and that moves city attorney, because I was in a district that changed district due to something that council voted on. So technically with this, no, it wouldn't even be technically. I would have not been able to run, because when they changed the district, they changed it, and I was only in that house for like 5 months. However, I've been in the same house for 20 years. So I don't know how, that's just something for downstream, but for the purpose of the exercise, I have no hard notes for today until we get back. I gotta get from the folks. Thank you.
I agree with Councilmember Perdue that other than language cleanup, everything has to go to a vote. I think the citizens need to be aware and they need to be allowed to vote on the different issues. I am a hard no on single-member districts. I am a hard no on the 1 year in district, and I am a hard no on the salary. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I should have covered last time as far as the process. I understand the methodology behind doing the hard no, kind of clear it off the slate, but in that respect, I think we're going to talk about these things anyways. I think we should talk about each one of them when we all discuss it. If it is a hard no, then that same logic applies. We'll dispense it pretty quickly and move on. But I think, especially if you would disservice to them and just basically come up here and say in so many words, oh, no, no, no. If there was a discussion about some of the districts that almost wanted to have, it'd be a lot easier to have it in a setting where we'd already set a date in the future that we can discuss these things a little bit more length, because, I might have an opinion on some of the districts, but we're just dispensing it right at the gate without having a set agenda to talk about it. Then we might not be able to have some of that insight that others might not be able to see when they say no. So I guess that was my only comment on that. I don't have any hard notes, that's the same reason. And then just, I understand the reasoning behind Councilmember Perdue, but to the point that I just made, if we were to discuss this a little bit at length, and since we're going to be already discussing these items at that date in the future, then I would add context. For example, and the city attorney wasn't here, so I'll fall into that, but the way that it went with Cummings' debacle was we theoretically could have held kangaroo court to Councilman Sankey's question, but there was a memorandum that came out of the former city attorney's office that basically said that at the end of the day, even if we had held that kangaroo court, we didn't have the authority to pursue the charter to act on. So we're well. So that kind of context is some of the stuff that I'd like to bring up when we kind of flush all of these out, hopefully, but obviously we move by majority here. But I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Gilman?
Yeah, Councilmember Darnell reminded me of something I heard in during the campaign, and that was whether or not the consecutive term limitation, in that if you serve in one district for 2 terms, and then you have an absence and come back in another district, whether you're still eligible. And by our charter, you are currently, and I don't know if the commission hasn't been addressed that. Did you guys look at that at all?
Councilmember, yes, we did discuss that, and we did not move that position forward. And just for your clarification, everybody else says, the Charter Commission did go through every line of the charter and had many discussions, and what you didn't see today is just because they didn't move forward with the commission.
Okay, and unless someone else has an appetite to review that again, I would just let it sit the way it is. I think you have to be pretty young to be able to do that, so. Yeah. Councilman Darnell kind of fit the role, so thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights on, I guess the question, moving on the question here is, do we want to, and I've heard some individuals talk about hard nose and some have not. Is that something that we want to do today by majority consensus? Or do we want to continue this conversation to a later date? Do we want to have a dialogue today on some of those items that could be a hard no? Do we want to have that conversation two hard no's and probably a lot of questions on the other remaining 6 items there. Is that something we want to do, is do the hard no's and go down?
I think that'd be a way to do it. I mean, I can prove that.
Everybody good, at least saying if they have a hard no or not, see where the consensus is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said, I feel like I already did, a couple of us have already said our hard.
Just to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll go down the
okay.
list.
So you wanna just get like a tally, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Mayor, okay.
Yeah.
I've been keeping it here.
Yeah, I mean, I've kept some of it tally, and so we can go down the list and also, you know, if you want to reiterate why you're saying no, when we're going down the list, that's fine. Yep.
4.01, at-large or single member, I'm not a hard no. We can put it on the ballot and leave it up to the people. However, I think that when you're running for office, it's great because it's a lot less costly. I think when you're elected, it's a lot different. What are we gonna do during the budget season? Hey, I'm District 7, how much money am I gonna get? I think that's why we should leave it up to the people. I think that they should think thoroughly through what we're actually proposing. So I'm not a hard no on it.
And you're not hard no on any of the other items?
Only 4.12.
Number 8, okay. Yep, okay. Councilmember Stein.
My only hard no is on single member district.
Same here.
For me, my two hard no's would be the single member districts. I think since our city is continually to be built out, we're about 55% built out. I think single member districts works well in cities that are already built out completely. So that's my belief that it could be a hindrance because, you know, you take where a lot of the buildings going on in our city now, it's in the northeast and northwest. You know, historically, you've seen in other cities where you have that single member district, you're really fighting for your district, and you could neglect some of the other areas of the city. I don't want to see us do that while we're building out. Once we're built out, then I would probably support single member districts, but at this point, I do not. The last item, number 8 or 4.12, I'm hard no on that. I believe that instead of empowering 6 council members in order to basically vote out a member of council, that should be held to an independent agency or the governor's office. And I think that's where it should stay. So for me, a hard no on those 2 items. The other 6 I have some questions on. When you're talking about residency, some of the legalities, I know there's case law on it, what we can do, what we can't do. I think we have to have our city attorney explore those. And I do have a few questions on the other ones. So the other 6, I would entertain future conversations. But item 1 remains unknown.
No, I'll go to hard no on 8 too. I didn't realize the part about the subpoena and everything was already here, so thank you. I'm going to go hard no on that.
Councilmember Long.
I don't have any hard no's at this time, thank you.
I specified my 3 hard no's, and in addition to that, for 4.12, I would also be a hard no.
I got to know, but I did want to say, I think it's going to be a mistake, council, if we today, in a matter of an hour, because they put in the work, and that single number is really hot in the community. And I know we personally have feelings that I think we're making a mistake, if we don't at least put it out and have a discussion on Cal. However, because it's going to be 5-4, so I'm just so you all saying hard numbers, you know, but we deal with what the body wants to do, so I'm on with the body, but I'm saying that's going to come back on us. And as far as this show, I don't have any for that very point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I stated mine earlier, hard no on salary increase in single member districts at this time. Thank you.
All right, so I guess with that being said, do we want to take those, sounds like we want to take those items, Madam City Clerk, if you have them keeping you out, maybe you could
district, I had 5 hard no's: Steinke, Kilrain, Gunter, Lehman, and Laspa. And then for the judgment of qualifications, I had 4 hard no's: Caduce, Kilrain, Gunter, and Lehman. So those are the only 2 that had, well, one had a majority, one had a tie.
And, Mr. City Attorney, since that particular vote was a 4-4, there's not a majority consensus either way, so what's your recommendation?
Even if I were to bring something before you that sounds like it would fail, unless you all want to have a further conversation and see if you're legal moves.
All right.
I mean, I'm comfortable with the first one, which is clear, it could fly unless 2 are going to change. I don't know if that's going to happen, at least at this point in time. And maybe, to your point, since it appears that there's only 7 remaining, if we want to start addressing them, maybe to every committee as a whole, and having a further discussion on 2 of the proposals, and maybe some other proposals. I'm trying to get you guys to the finish line. I just want to get you all there.
Okay.
And I think you have to all really identify, and I know it's a lot of you right now, there's a distinction between putting something on a primary versus putting something on a general. And the timelines are different, and there are certain implications associated with what you put on a primary and what you put on a general. And I don't think all of you really have, in my humble opinion, sat back and really contemplated what should be on the primary and what should be on the general, because that matters. And the reason why I bring that up is because I've got deadline differences depending on which one it is you all choose to put on what. So maybe that's something that you all want to discuss as a matter of what we want on the primary versus what we want on the general one as well. I was trying a certain threshold. That one is probably the most important one. What do you want on the primary? What do you want on the general? And then what do you all want that's not even here?
I think that's something that, sounds like November 12th that we want to bring back. If there's any other items, it's hard, at least for me, it's hard for me to choose now what's on primary, what's on general, because I don't know what we have to pick from. Once we know exactly what we have to pick from, then I think as a body, we could have a conversation and make those decisions.
And understanding that, we're limited to 5 on the primary and 4 on the general, so, we're at that, right now, as it stands right now, depending on whether or not, 4.12 really survives, you're looking at 6. And if all of you all believe that we should move forward on the 6, then the most you're really gonna be able to add is more than 3 more.
Okay. So I guess, we really didn't answer the question with number 8, would be, since it was a 4-4, Councilmember Kilrain, Supervisor.
Yeah, I want to comment more on basically, after really thinking it through now, I would not be one to sit up here and judge fellow council persons as to whether or not they violated what we consider to be good standards of operation. I think that there are going to be court evidence that can be done through the judicial process that's probably better at doing it, and what law enforcement and judicial process govern that. I think it's the best way to do it. It's the way that our system has prescribed prior to this, and I just think it makes sense for the legal basis to be solid and well-grounded, as opposed to some kind of popularity issue or some kind of vendetta issue cropping in on it. I think it's a cleaner process, and I think the charter is clean in that manner. So I clean support it, and that's the logic for it. I don't know if that's going to be fits anyone else would like to do it, but I really put my mind on it because I can see where someone gets on the outside from a relationship standpoint with the rest of the council, and maybe the reasons aren't on the ballot from a legal standpoint, so that's my reasoning behind it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's also real quickly, reading that again, it says that the member charged with conduct constituting gross forgery. I think the key word there is charged, not convicted. There's a huge difference in the two. And as we know, in the judicial system, you're innocent until proven guilty. So that's another reason I have a little bit of a problem with that wording, because it says charged and not convicted. So I just wanted to point that out as we're having discussions. Councilmember Key.
Thank you, yes, I actually spoke to Chair Leon and our attorney when we had our one-on-one and said the exact same thing that you just said. That's why I have an issue with it and I'm a hard no. I actually put on my light because I wanted to just reiterate, and our city attorney did, this is just what the Charter Review Commission brought forward. This is not even including anything else that we could possibly want to put onto the ballot. So I just wanted to make sure that we all know that as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Mayor. For reasons further stated, I would also put in a hard no on 412. And as it relates to the 4-4, just a comment that I would have on that as well, this is not a voting meeting. If we kind of apply the same principle that we do during voting meetings as it relates to ties, a tie fails. And so what we were trying to do is trying to determine whether something should be eliminated completely. And so 4-4 tie would be a fail, that it should be eliminated completely. That would be my take on it. 4-4 tie, then it stays in the running for further discussion. That's where I would stand on that.
Councilmember Long.
I guess just to get back to the procedure, we got a lot of work to do. And so I think trying to break it down even, as was proposed by a couple different meetings, or even if we talk about it in November, really that's just high level, and then he comes back with language. To his point, city attorney's point, we did this last year or the year prior, I think, the referendum. And it turned out, especially with this body, he comes with language, that language is great, so then we send it back to retool it. Well, that's a couple different weeks in between. He comes back, some of us are more likely to not change our minds somehow in between meetings, and now that language doesn't work, and that continues to perpetuate. Now we run out of time. The point is, April's coming up pretty quickly. You said the April deadline? Yeah, and legal drafting and everything else, so we would almost need to have a special meeting or like whatever, workshop, whatever you want to call it, that just identifies charter review stuff for the whole meeting, realistically, within the next month, or preferably, or in January, just to really start, because even if we do have that, you still have to go to that, you still have to draft. We're coming back, we're looking at the language, there's gonna be tweaks for sure. I just would hate to get to a point like we got to last time where we're up against the wall, we can't get a consensus on the language, even though the majority of us agree in principle to the idea, and as a result, we gotta wait another 2 years at a minimum to get it on the ballot. So I guess I would prefer to try to have a special meeting that just addresses purely all these items and the ones that we want sooner than later. And then at that point, we can start matriculating it over a couple of meetings as far as language and things like that. That's it, thank you.
Yeah, and just two other comments for me. I kind of agree with Councilmember Steinke, the 4-4 vote. If this was a voting meeting, then it would remove it. So I think that we could at least move that particular item to the November 12th committee of the whole, where we have maybe a more detailed discussion. I'm sorry?
Who changed his vote?
Did you change your vote? Or within, so
I
then that
had
make
a
it
hard
five?
no with 412.
Oh, so then it's five. I didn't realize, I thought he had voted for that before. Okay. All right, so that gives you a hard five for two items, the single member districts and the judge clarification there, which was 412. So with that being said, I guess by consensus, we'll move those two items for consideration. The other six will move forward for the November 12th discussion. One thing that that I'm struggling with as well as the compensation piece of this. One of the things that we've always done is collect the data, analyze the data, see where we are. The other thing that we've done with compensations, more recently with all three of the unions. I think we're even gonna have a discussion today with the non-bargaining. We're gonna be looking at data, we're gonna be looking at a study. And I appreciate how the commission, they said they looked at 50 cities, and then they made a determination amongst themselves on what they believed, and that's how they came up with that number by looking at the data. I didn't see that data. I think it would be in our best interest to have an outside third party collect that data, bring that report back to us, and hopefully we can get that done in a timely manner. So we can see what other cities today are paying other councils and other members, so we can make a good informed decision if that's the direction that we want to go. But I think before we can say yes or no, for me, I got to see the data and see where it kind of lies, and then move whatever that may be forward to the voters. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want to at least see the data. So I just wanted to bring that up. Is that something that the rest of my colleagues? Oh, I agree. And, you know, to me, that's a yes or no. Maybe we can go down the line and say, we can direct the city manager and our HR director to maybe be able to bring that data back to us so we can see exactly what it is.
I would look at the data. Well, hold on, you said, Mr. Mayor, if I could go back and raise my turn, but you had said basically hire an outside firm, and now you're saying our staff, and who's doing the data?
Now,
That would be important to me.
yeah, I don't want our staff. I want a third party outside individual. Staff is only going to get the deal. Apply. Mr. City Manager.
Largely, cities may already have.
Yeah, there's ways.
So we'll see if there's anything, before we would engage anybody, we would look to see if there's any relevant data out there already at one of the organizations we're part of. If there's not, then we would go that route.
Okay. But maybe we get them to at least look, start looking at cities and start looking to see if they have. To me, the most important has got to be current data. Because if they look and the data is 3 years old, for me, I want to know current data. So hopefully they'll have that. Hopefully it'll be fairly inexpensive. But if that data is not readily available, then I would want us to go look for it.
Well, it's one of the reasons why we want to grow these cities, to have access to that data.
Right, as long as it's up to date. I would have to look at it. I don't know. So maybe to answer Councilmember Long's question, maybe we look, either we identify sometime on the Florida League of Cities, if you want me to try to reach out, we want the city manager to do it. You know, it doesn't matter to me.
I think it might be easier if we did it on.
I think that it would be better if we're not a part of that,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Let staff reach out to the Florida League of Cities, see if that data is available.
If you're worried about who does it, and you're worried, you might have to ask the auditor.
I'm sorry, Kurt.
The auditor, so that you have, if you're worried about somebody challenging the data,
Maybe have the auditor do it.
So I just want to take that on, I think that's important since it was mentioned earlier in the conversation. Let's make sure we got the current data, of what, you know, the other cities are paying, and then we can take a look at that and have a discussion. You know, it's only as good as where we want to use the comparables too. There's 411 cities out there. As we do with our unions and our non-bargaining, you know, we identify comparable cities that we're going to use. That's something else that we may have to have a discussion later on with cities we will use in that comparison. And I think it's important to mention, you know, we have a 75th percentile mentality that we can apply across the board. And if that's good for our employees, that should be good for us as well. So, you know, definitely see what that 75th percentile number is. So that's what I'm at. Councilman Long.
Well, to me, it does matter, so I think as far as clarification for direction of staff, I would prefer to come with, say exactly where we want that data to come from, whether or not. I know you mentioned, reach out to local cities, and if not, maybe get the third party. I'd be opposed to either one of them, so It has to be us. I mean, it's not, this is objective data. It's not, there's nothing analytical about it. You can Google, hell, I can Google, what the salaries are for each one of these municipalities, and it is what it is. There's no appearance of impropriety with the fact that a certain municipality lists their salaries at what they are. So there's no way that our staff would be able to do that, from an objective basis. But if you really wanted to flesh it out, that was the case, and we were spending more money on consultants when we already paid, what we pay for staff and salaries to do the work. Some of what we've done to do the work. So, for me, if we're going down that road, then we might want to repoll everybody to see whether or not there's even any appetite to put them. If it's, to me, I'm a hard no on the number figure on that. Said it was fine, because I thought we were going to have discussion if we're going to spend more taxpayer dollars on a study. It's inevitable that the end result is just adding $5 to our salary, it's going to come. I can guarantee you. So, if we were going to look at it internally, come up with some numbers and discuss it, fine. But if we're spending even $1 on a study to tell me what I already know and can guarantee it's going to fail, then I'd rather just dispose of that completely. There's another piece of the compensation that they proposed that I would prefer to look into. But as far as setting a hard figure, putting it on the ballot, 0 chance, whatever the figure is. So that's where I'm at, let's say. As far as my vote, I'm only one. If we can get staff to look it up and figure out what the numbers are, it shouldn't be hard. It's gonna take some time, but it shouldn't be hard. It's not a formula based. That's fine, we can talk about it, but if we're paying $100 grand or more for somebody to do what somebody could do on Google in a couple of hours, I wouldn't support it. Thank you.
Councilmember Katie.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually put my light on because you were speaking and said that how do we want to come up with the data, and I was going to say that it should be similar to a municipality that manages a budget our size. However, with what Councilmember Long just said, I agree. I don't want to pay anyone to come up with this information that we can just look up. It makes more than that. It's a functional municipality. We can find. So I don't want to pay to find that. So it should be similar to the budget that we are managing. That's all. Thank you.
All right. And we also have, with the city attorney, there was a recommendation to have our city auditor be able to pull that information and direct her office to do that. So we have that option on the table. So I just want to mention that. Mr. City Attorney?
So that members of the council know, my office did get the 50 city information, and that is available on the spreadsheet. I don't think you've had the privilege of seeing that, but the commission has. I'll make sure you all get that. That may be a starting point, you may be satisfied with that information, but clearly you don't have that at this point in time, but that's something I will get to you. And it may ultimately, well, Councilmember Long has seen it, that may ultimately alleviate what you were able to accomplish by having that information that already exists. And if there's additional stuff, whether it's the auditor, whether it's my office, it would be great to provide that.
Okay. All right, that'd be great information to have. And I would assume that was up-to-date information you have in those 50 cities.
We've been done within the last, at least 6 years.
Okay. Great. So maybe provide that information first. That will give us opportunity to review that information, and then maybe we can have a further discussion on that. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Mayor. I am 99% sure that this information is available for Florida League cities. I think that's why, one of the reasons why we're a member is so that we understand how things go on in other cities, that we hear best practices in other cities, that we have information coming from the other cities, and there are things that they can help refine that list based on form of government, population, size of budget, and so certainly a strong mirror performance of